Okay, now people are terrified. They're afraid that their data might fall into wrong hands. So what should they do now?
Well, I think you're right. People are terrified. I mean, what's being reported now is that people's birth dates, ID numbers, mobile numbers, email addresses, even physical home addresses, even so far as people's personal medical information is out there for the entire world to see, for anybody to buy. So the first port of call people should really start to do is change passwords. Um, to change email accounts, contact their mobile service provider to see whether they themselves have been affected. I wouldn't suggest that people start changing their mobile numbers. One of the fears is that IMIs, all of this information can be gathered, and so phones can be cloned to the extreme level. I don't advise people automatically change their phones, and obviously phones are quite expensive devices these days, but also quite essential. But the first port of call I would suggest is for consumers, for customers of these mobile services, to change their passwords and to contact their mobile provider to ensure that they have not been affected, although I think the majority of the Malaysian population has been affected by this data breach.
And that is the first step that you should do the moment to change password.
Correct.
What kind of information or what kind of services that this involve? Telcos, banking. So who should they go to first?
I think the first step is they should speak with their mobile service provider to see if they've been affected. I think depending on what jurisdiction you're in, some of these vendors will automatically contact customers to let them know, to notify them that this has happened. Again, that depends on what region, what country you're in. So people should be proactive. They should contact their service provider to see if they've been affected. It's not just the service providers that they should be speaking, but also personal emails. You should automatically change your password immediately. All other things that you access, so online shopping, your banking details, you should consider changing the passwords for those as well. Again, it might seem extreme, but the downside is that people that have access to this, you're susceptible to ID theft, and so people can be purchasing on your behalf without your knowledge as of now.
So you're saying all kinds of passwords, online especially, and offline, meaning via telebanking, those should be changed ASAP.
Absolutely. I think because of the type of information that's been stolen, again, very personally identifiable information like your date of birth, which you would generally use for a two-factor authentication, your mobile number, again, which can be cloned. So any message or email that's not email, but any message like an SMS that you would normally receive on your mobile can be cloned. And so that person, that rogue person can now be receiving them. Again, further from further to the two-factor authentication, that will again be susceptible to more issues. And so yes, anything banking, your insurers, anything that you use to log in with a username and a password, you should change them immediately.
Noted. From legal standpoint, what can we do as consumers to protect ourselves?
I mean, legally, that might be more of a question for a lawyer, but in terms of what you can do from a practical perspective, again, speak with your service provider, speak with the vendors, speak with government. I think this breach demonstrates how some systems are very ill prepared. This happened, a couple of weeks ago, and it's only being sort of notified to consumers and customers now. So I think speak with local government. The police are obviously onto this as well, but in terms of locally, speak with local government.
Mm-hmm. The telcos, especially, they are still keeping their mouth shut. From your point of view, what are they doing now? Is there any some sort of hush hush they want to keep, or what's on their mind?
Yeah, I think not to speak badly of the big telcos, but a forensic investigation of this magnitude takes its time. Um, Clearly, we've done these sorts of investigations as well, and so particularly this magnitude again, it will take some time. I think what should be done is that telcos, companies, organizations, governments, um, law firms, accounting firms, service providers, they should have a proactive plan in place. So who you notifying your key stakeholders, notifying who should know what at what stage, and then telling regulators if there's a mandatory notification, for example. That should have occurred. And so I think those are the types of things that should have happened. Again, to reiterate, these types of investigations are not simple things. They're quite complex, and generally finding the source of the breach is very difficult. Hackers are sophisticated. They use the most modern technology and some technologies that research is not even aware of at present. So it's a difficult situation. Hence, I think the time lapse between the breach and what telcos are being upfront about at this stage.
What kind of the investigation period? What kind of time frame that we're looking at? Could it take years?
I don't suggest it would take years, but I would suggest it would take weeks, if not months. Again, depending on the volume, we've done investigations where it's taken a few hours, but we've also done investigations where it's taken a couple of months. Again, depending on the magnitude, we're talking about 46 million records here of 46 million, let's say, records, and not associated generally with people, because most people will have multiple devices, but to that magnitude, it's quite a complex situation. Again, it shows you how ill prepared some parties can be. Again, having an action plan in place to ensure when it happens, you know what to do, and you know what to tell your customers, your clients, and your key stakeholders, and you know what to tell governments, regulators, authorities, and the like. So it's very important to have a proactive action plan.
Now, if you're a bad person and you have this 46 million data at your disposal, who are the kind of victims that you're eyeing?
Well, I mean, any person is susceptible to identity theft fraud. I think going further back to your immediate actions post this breach, separate to changing your passwords, you should clearly be more diligent, and you should be more conscious of social engineering, spoofing emails and the like. You should be conscious of those appearing in your inbox in the next few weeks, months. So anything that looks not legitimate is likely to be not legitimate. So you should be conscious of those and keeping an eye on for them. Not just spoofing emails, but also further to social engineering, getting phone calls. People know who you are now, and so it's quite difficult to know what's what and what's true, what's not true. So to go back to your question, nobody is as safe as the other, or as unsafe and as safe as the next person.
Right. Gino, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.